And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I hope you're having a wonderful night. I think you'll notice this is my new bling going on in the studio. Just a little something, a little trick I picked up from Miss Paisley, but I thought it was cool. So I just happen to have the equipment laying around, so I've bedazzled my mic or whatever the hell you'd call it, but I've done it. I think it's pretty good looking. I don't know. But anyway, guys, I hope you're all ready. We got a great show lined up for you tonight. Kind of an unusual show, but we are going to have a guest on tonight. Mr. Duke Sullivan of World Bigfoot Radio will be joining us momentarily. But I hope you're all ready because, well, it's time for bed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I am your host, Brent Thomas, and hope everything's going wonderful. Oh, thank you, Gemini. Gemini likes my bedazzled microphone. I don't think calling it bedazzled is probably correct, but I think that's from the 90s or something, isn't it? The bling little stickers and stuff you could put on everything. Yeah. Well, it's not that, but it's kind of a fiber optic little thing, so cool enough. I love little lights and stuff. I've just always had a soft spot for them. But ladies and gentlemen, tonight, World Bigfoot Radio's own Duke Sullivan will be calling in, and we'll be going through a bunch of images that he sent regarding some field work he's been doing lately, including his latest meet and greet that he had over there in the Big Sky country of Montana. Just some phenomenal images coming up. If you're into Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and the amazing research that a lot of people are doing in that, then you're going to love this show because these images are really, really impressive. And you're going to see firsthand some of the amazing feats that these beings must accomplish in order to do these things. Just such sheer power is all I can say. But I'm just waiting to see Mr. Duke's call come through, and we will get this boat on the course. But in the meantime, just know that the call-in board will be open, of course, for tonight's show for calls. If you have questions for Duke that you'd like to ask regarding some of the material he's covering. I'm sure he'll be all for having discussions with you, but you can call in using 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500. And I see that the man himself is now called in, so let's get to the line and get him on the air here. Mr. Duke, you're on the air, sir.
Howdy, buddy. Howdy, everybody in chat, and howdy to all the listeners out there in Paranormal Portal land.
Doesn't sound kind of as cool as Big Sky Country howdy, but it's pretty cool.
Well, howdy, paranormaloids.
Yeah, yeah, that's not much better.
No, I didn't think so. Well, unfortunately, you guys are all going to have to forgo having me in chat tonight because I actually have to be on the show with Brent and explain all these pile of pictures that I sent over to him.
I'm putting the Duke to work tonight. First of all, thank you so much for coming on tonight. I think that's awesome, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see some of these things firsthand that you've been out in the field collecting with you and your team members and stuff. Very cool stuff. But thank you for coming on.
Oh, you're so welcome. Really, I'm just concerned about you because now you got the attention of the Bigfoot community, and I know what they're like. And if you don't do a Bigfoot show regularly, that they'll show up at your castle with pitchforks and torches and stuff. So, got to try and keep you safe from anything like that happening.
I appreciate that, brother, and I know I'm in good hands, so that's cool. But well, at least as far
as that goes, sometimes when I turn out a show, I still get the pitchforks and torches, so there's no guarantee on anything.
Well, yeah, well, you're doing your job if you got people showing up with pitchforks and torches. Yeah,
that's pretty much my litmus test. If I got at least a small mob of angries outside the castle with pitchforks and torches every time, then I've done my job properly. Because they've definitely ticked off somebody every time.
And I think that's important because if you don't ruffle the feathers, then everybody will start getting all cocky and resting on their laurels. So got to keep pushing that out.
Actually, I'm like mostly kidding, but part of it is actually true. If you're turning out anything that's challenging people's preconceived notions, some of them get kind of mad at you throwing rocks at their glass house, and they don't react well to it. So that is sort of a test to know if you're turning out material that's edgy or not, and is how many trolls you're getting attacking you all the time.
No, that's true. I know that I've only basically dipped my feet into the waters of the Bigfoot community, but I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there's it's no joke. It's really a pretty cutthroat field, and people are really ravenously going after each other, which is first and foremost, it's a tragedy because as long as there's so much infighting going on, we'll never get to the point where people are actually sharing information and we're progressing the field. But I guess there's not much we can do about that.
No, I totally agree, and I think some of it's planned. I think there are definitely paid disinfo agents out there.
Yeah.
And, anybody starts making too much traction, it's their job to get in there and throw a shadow of doubt on them or call them a hoaxer or start some big controversy that has nothing to do with their research just to get everybody to quit listening to them, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So, everybody's going to think I'm totally paranoid and stuff, but, I didn't believe any of that either until I got seriously involved in this. And now I see examples over and over and over and over and over and over. And it's pretty hard to just deny it.
Yeah, that's true. And yes, who said that? Hold on. Brown Dwarf said, "Is Duke on?" Yeah, he's on. He's here.
Hey, Brown Dwarf.
So we are.
Hey to everybody else out there. One person I got to mention so they don't freak out because, they got to be mentioned. Hey, OCG.
I haven't seen her. I don't know if she's come in yet, but I'm sure if she's not here yet, we'll make sure that she knows. She was announced already.
Yeah.
If she's tardy, it's her own fault.
Well, considering if she misses anything, she probably goes back and listens to it anyway. So.
Amen, brother. So the pictures that you've sent me, the first batch, of course, they're all amazing shots. I'm gonna pull them up over on the sidebar here, and let's see what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have to pull the.
Just in case we have any technical snafus to let the audience know what's going on here. There's a time lag between when something appears on your screen and when it's actually happening. In other words, I'm ahead of you in the future. So by the time I actually see the image on the screen, it's going to be sitting there for a while. So we've got them all set up in order, and Brent's going to walk us through them one by one, and then I've got the original set on my computer that I can look at, and which one you guys are looking at, and hopefully this will work.
Hopefully it'll work. And right now I've got the first image up, which is a beautiful mountainscape. That's really amazing.
Yeah, and this is to set the stage for you. That is a picture of the valley I live in, believe it or not.
Wow.
You kind of can't see the valley because you're on top of one mountain range looking across it at another mountain range.
Mm-hmm.
But believe it or not, down there somewhere, way below, is the Bitterroot Valley, which is about 80 miles long, and that's where I live. And that shot's actually taken from the Sapphire side, close to where we went to do all this research.
That's really
so
amazing.
Sort of sets the stage. It's freaking rugged.
It is, and I I'm of course over here our mountains are big, but it looks like your mountains over there are like two of our mountains on each other. It really does. Those are some really high peaks.
Well, just to give you guys the example here, we're sitting at 3,250 feet in the valley floor,
mm-hmm.
and within visual distance of downtown is Mount Wolo, which is over 9,000 feet. So we've got like a vertical mile of mountains on both sides of us, pretty much. It's kind of like living in a giant castle courtyard. With huge mountain ranges instead of castle walls.
Right. And you know what I think a lot of people don't understand about these kind of living in places like this is that your dawn and your dusk end up coming like an hour earlier, an hour later, or hour earlier on both ends, I guess, right?
Yeah, hour later on both ends, and it's more than that even. The sky will actually start lighting up way before you see the sun, because the sun's rising in the west, which is over the Bitterroot Mountain Range, and then it's setting in the east, which is over the Sapphire Mountain Range. So you don't get to see sunrises or sunsets ever.
Wow. That is really intense, but it's beautiful land. It's beautiful. Breathtaking.
Yep. Yeah, it's squatchy as I'll get out. If you guys check out the latest episode I did with Rich Soul, he's been up here squatching with me before. And I made a point of mentioning that because the guy's been all over the continent squatching, and he's like, yeah, you make it look easy because they're everywhere around there. If I was living there, I'd make it look easy too, you know. And that's literally true. It's not that I'm so skilled. It's just that they're everywhere. If you know what to look for, it's easy to find signs of them. Pick a spot you want to go to.
And you know, this is a great graphical representation of trying to explain to people how much territory there is that isn't full of houses and roads and yards and stuff. As far as the eye can see in this entire image, it's all rugged wilderness.
Yeah, there's no roads, there's no houses, there's no, you know, anybody that does own property on one of these mountains actually usually owns property on the low edge of it, and that's maybe where they have their farm set up or something, and there's nothing up higher than that. There's fire roads in case the mountain gets burning down and they need to get in there. That's it.
Sure. Yeah, it's really spectacular. So you let me know when you want me let me know when you want me
All
to.
Right, well, let's go on to the next picture. We'll keep setting the stage here.
Okay.
I sent some pictures to Brent to show that are from previous expeditions, so I can show you guys examples of some of the stuff that we found up there in the Skalkaho Pass. And the next pick up was actually used on one of my field research videos that's up on my channel, Skalkaho #1, the Williams X. And there's the huge X structure, and right underneath it is the guy that discovered it, Richard Williams, who waded across the icy river so he could get over there and take some pictures at the base of it and get his picture taken by me to show the scale on the thing. As you can tell, that is a large X structure. It's made out of 2 lodgepole pines. Both have been stripped of bark and branches, so not natural. Both were moved into position. We got pictures showing that coming up here. And talking to a couple loggers, their estimated weight on each log is about 6,000 pounds, about 3 tons. So, what moved those?
Yeah, what put those up in there? And I've changed
exactly.
I'm on the next one now.
Okay, and the next one now we've got like a more complete shot of the X there without Richard underneath it. You can see it goes quite a bit higher. Shot after that is actually the base of one of the 2 posts on the X, and you can see there's no stump there.
Yeah, so
I think it was broken off and hauled into position.
There's no roots there. There's nowhere where it just tipped over from a load or a storm damage. that was moved into this position from somewhere else.
Exactly.
Wow.
And the next pickup is the other side of it, which they actually placed in between this double trunk log that was laying down so it couldn't skid and go anywhere.
Wow.
Carefully placed.
That
If you look way off in the background, you can see a strip back there. That's a little open field, and then the road that's on the other side of the river. This side of the river, there's no road access, and there's a 10-foot embankment to get up the river over here. So nobody hauled this in with any heavy equipment or machinery. There's no access.
Man. And this is the kind of feat that was featured in that Russian video showing those trees being moved around. That's pretty much the same kind of physical feat, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and pretty much the same size trees too. Something can rip out full-size lodgepole pines and move them around when they want to. You know, and the next shot's another good example of that. It's from the base of one of them looking upward, and you can see there's no bark or branches left on this thing. They completely stripped them off for some reason, and this is really common with a lot of the huge tree structures that we find, that the pieces of the structure tend to be the same size. If it's not even exactly the same kind of tree, they'll get another one that's the same size, same length, and they'll rip all the branches and the bark off of it and then set it up. So it's like even more obvious that it's not natural.
Yeah. That is incredible. Yeah, that's a big tree.
Oh man, you can't even imagine, the scale on it. It's one thing looking at pictures, but when you're standing underneath it and all the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you go, I don't want to meet who made this. Let's take these pictures quick and get out of here.
This is why you say don't hug the Wookiee.
Yeah. Whatever Wookiee made that, I ain't hugging him. I'm running the other direction.
Man, that is intense. Oof.
Okay, and just kidding. Don't run from Bigfoot. Bad plan. Triggers chase instinct.
Yeah.
So anyway, the next picture below that, the same time we were out there documenting this X on the very same trip the same day, we were driving down the road, and I saw a smaller X structure where they had just peeled the bark off right around where the two pieces crossed each other and left everything else there. So it was even more peculiar looking. And I went, well, is that natural, or did they set that up? So we stopped the truck. You could see it from the road. We walked down about 100 feet to where it was. And it didn't look like it was natural. Both of them had been put into place. I'm sorry I didn't give you a picture of that. But the reason I didn't is because when we turned around and walked back to the truck about 30 feet away from it, I saw 4 tracks. And the next picture is the best of the 4 tracks with the tape measure next to it.
Yeah.
And we actually did videotape that. There was the next track after it was pretty obvious. The 2 before it were just scuffle marks on the forest floor. But this apparently had happened within just minutes of us being there. We might have actually spooked him, and he ran out of there, and we stopped the truck because that track was very fresh. It was about 2.5, 3 inches deep. And, it actually started collecting water in it while we were standing there filming it. So really fresh.
That's impressive. How long would you say that is?
Tape measures on. It's like 17 or 18 inches. I can't see it on my
17,
computer here. It's
17.
just too small.
Yep, 17 inch. Wow, that's a huge foot. That's enormous.
Yeah. What concerned me about it is that it was incredibly fresh. Whoever made it was probably about 50 yards back in the timber watching us film the damn thing. So I didn't want to stick around there very long either. Next picture below that, also again taken this very same day, we found an arch that we could see. So we started going up this mountainside, and this is the second one that we got to. And then above that, right when you're standing next to it, you could see there's a tree snap up above that. We walked up to the tree snap, and then we could see off to our right there was another arch, and walked over to that. And above that, there was another tree snap, and we wanted to keep going. Who knows how far it went up the mountain, but our ride was actually blocking the road below us, so we kind of had to come back down again. We could hear cars honking and people swearing at them, so we figured it was kind of time to come back down again. It's not a really wide road, and he didn't do the best job of pulling off to the side of it. I don't think he knew how long we'd be up there, because we only saw one structure, right? But then we saw more. And the next picture below that is actually former team member Skunk Ape, and he's looking at something we documented a couple times. Again, this would be the second trip out there about a month later. After I was out there with Richard, I was out there with my research team, and we were taking a closer look at some of the stuff there. The 2 pieces that are forming the X in the background are questionable. The one that's coming in the foreground that's sort of going across it on the very top, that thing was placed in a position. You can clearly see it when you look at the video. It's like somebody moved that thing there. And again, look at the size of that thing.
Yeah.
It's gigantic. The guy standing there looking at it, skunk ape, is 6'4".
Oh man. Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be big. And then the next picture up we got is from last year. I was up there with my team, and Michael was running around with me in Hidden Valley, and we took some various pictures of things that we were seeing, and there was a nice big X.
Yeah.
And below it, again, and this is like average size X up here. Anywhere else would be like, this is gigantic, and we're just like, meh, another big X, man. It's not the size of a skyscraper. I'm not impressed.
Sure.
Next one down, same kind of picture. This one's interesting because after we put it up, a bunch of people looked at it and went, hey, you got a peeker in there looking at you. And we're like, what? Yeah, you got a peeker in there looking at you.
Wow.
So they did a crop. The next picture is the crop of the peeker they supposedly found, and then the third is the close-up of the crop.
Huh.
So you guys can make what you will of that. We didn't see it while we were there. Other people found it in the image after the fact. So we don't know what it is. But it's interesting. It does look like a face.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It really does. Wow. Huh.
And it wouldn't surprise me at all that they'd be up in the trees watching us documenting things like, what the heck are these humans doing over here? That area is very infrequently traveled, and we're in another part of it that's a little canyon off the main pass that virtually nobody goes into, and we're way in the far end of it where even less people go to. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it might have been a tree peeker there. So here's some pictures from last weekend. Yay, we're up to pictures from last weekend. Yes, one of the things we noticed on a previous trip up there is that even though the Williams axe had subsequently come down, and we figured it was probably during a storm or something, one end of it flopped, the other end of it's still up. So we went, well, if that's actually a marker, they should make a replacement for it. Let's go down the river and see if we can find it. Sure enough, about a quarter mile down the river is where we found this one.
Wow.
We got a series of pictures here. The first one is the close-up of it. This one we haven't been able to get in to document yet, unfortunately, because, again, it's on the other side of the river. And every time that we've been up there since we found it, it's been too cold to cross it. Keeping in mind you're at 7,000 plus feet, this river is the exact same temperature as ice water you just took out of your freezer. And you're going to be wading through it up to your chest there and back again. It better be at least 80 degrees or you're going to get hypothermia and die. Mm-hmm. So we can't take a chance of crossing the river until we can actually be up there when it's actually hot, which happens for like a month and a half every year.
Right.
So that's why we haven't documented it yet. If you're wondering why, it's because we don't want to die. So there's 5 pictures. There's a close-up, and then there's a second one from a little ways back. These are taken zoomed in from across the river, as are all of them. And as you go through the series and back up further and further, you can see that, again,
okay,
this thing is absolutely enormous.
Hold on a sec, because my MeWe is being, since again, a lot of these sent as private posts instead of just images, my MeWe is being a real flake about it, so there's...
That's okay. It'll give me a chance to catch up. I was having problems with it earlier while you were doing the intro, and I was trying to post a link to the show.
Oh.
And I was cursing and threatening to crush my computer and everything else. I was having all kinds of fun.
I will crush my enemies and to see them scatter before me and to hear the lamentations of the women.
Yeah. I'll crush you, puny computer. Don't do this to me. You're making me angry.
I don't do a real good Arnie, but I try. It's not for lack of trying. Yeah, that is a real substantial X as well. It really is. Huh. So that's the second. There's the third, ladies and gentlemen, that you can now see. And are these all the same structure? These first several?
Yep, it's the same structure. We just can't get very close to it. We need to get to the base of it to document if it's been pushed over, moved into place, right, what all's going on around there. And generally, when you get around the base of these things, you start finding tracks anyway.
Right.
So we really, really want to get over there. It's been twice we've been up there now and haven't been able to.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see, number 3. There, I just did that one. Okay, number 4 coming right up as soon as MeWe decides to open it.
Ooh, the anticipation.
I know.
But yeah, when you guys get to the last picture, you can see how tall this thing is, and it's ridiculous.
Okay, number 4. Again, wait for MeWe. Patience.
I'll slow down on the dissertation here a little bit. The sequence, well, there's a couple sequence ones here that, yeah, if you're going to take time loading, I'll go slower.
Yeah, it's so damn flaky. It's like, God bless it. All right, so this is number 4 or 5. I'm trying to get it to close. Here it comes.
Well, you can always reference the order on MeWe and then go to the collection you made and pull that image.
Okay, now here's the one looking up from the bottom up into a bunch of like a structure. This looks like the 5th picture now.
Yeah, the last picture of the Super X sequence would just show the whole entire X, including the very top of it, which is the height of the treetops it's around.
Okay, yep. Yeah, I did pass that one. So this next one now shows it's
okay. Now what we're doing is we're showing something that we hadn't found before that we actually found last weekend. Michael spotted it. Sharp-eyed Michael, who's a new guy on my team, just joined this time last year. Had never done any squatching before, and he's getting really good at finding stuff and finding tracks. So I'm really glad to have him with. Mm-hmm. But we're standing underneath the teepee structure, and we're looking up. And this is what you're seeing about 30 feet above you.
And
does that look natural?
No. And the funny thing is that it's very, very deliberately placed with whatever one's on the bottom, on the top, and and again, it gets kind of back to that rudimentary weaving almost, in a sense.
Yep.
Wow.
And then the next picture below that is zoomed out, so you can actually see how high up it is when you're standing underneath it.
Okay, let's see if I can get that one to open a little quicker. Come on, you can do it.
I'll tell you what, Brent, you just advance to the next picture, and then you tell me when we're on it, and then I'll start describing it. That'll save people time waiting.
So now I see the this one again is looking up. This looks like a different one with more open sky and all the treetops and stuff.
Yeah. This one you're standing directly under it. It's the same position as the previous shot, only now he's zoomed out.
Wow!
So you can see exactly how high it is above his head.
That's amazing. Okay.
Oh wait, it gets scarier.
But wait,
because again, take note of all those trees. If all those trees were somehow weaved together like that, I mean, do you guys think this is natural? Seriously?
Yeah.
So something put this together. Again, we're on the other side of the river where there's no road access. No heavy equipment can get there. So maybe somebody had a chain winch come along and they were making this stuff with it. We checked the main tree. There's no evidence of anything like that on it, which there definitely would be. And why would anybody make something like this? And so, yeah.
So now
it's huge. Yeah.
Right. And this is a picture from the side, it looks like.
Yeah, from the side. Now you're getting here's kind of what it looks like when you're standing down in the woods looking at it.
And you can
see it from that angle.
You can really see that sometimes these things really don't stick out. You got to kind of know what you're looking for, because if you weren't intentionally looking for sign, you would look past this a million times and never see it.
You would never even notice it. We drove past it probably a dozen times now and didn't see it. And the reason is because we were driving too fast. We were literally going up the road at almost like barely faster than walking speed. And because he was watching out the window and he could see different sides of it as we were slowly going up, he went, "Oh, whoa, that's a structure." Otherwise, you'd never spot it.
Wow. Okay.
But this is like from a third of the distance from where he saw it is where he's standing when he took this picture.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let me do this. Hold on. I'm going to try to open it in a different way here, because this is getting I'm going to try to get your messages open on a full page rather than the way it's open now, because I'm opening them through this little pop-up window here, and it's driving me crazy. I'm trying to figure out in MeWe how to open the chats. Oh, this is new. Isn't there just a window? Here we go. Never mind. Derp. I figured it out.
It's essentially like Facebook, except not Nazi, and there's a little bit different way of doing everything.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me go back up here. Oh, now wait a minute. Now, when I'm looking at it this way, this opened them all correctly. There's none of that private message BS. Okay, this is encouraging. All right, so we went
This
to
is
the.
good.
Yeah,
This
it
will
is
help
good.
everybody see them.
Right. Okay, so. And let's see. Let's do this. Okay. All right. Now, this one again is an off to the side image of that same
Yep.
structure.
This
Okay.
one is about half the distance from the previous one. He's come up that much closer to it and sort of aimed his camera up toward the top so you can see again how weird this looks, that they're all the same distance away from the center tree that they're leaning against, and they're all on different sides of it, and they're all pushed toward it.
Wow.
And I mean that literally. None of these are moved into place. These are all trees in position that were pushed over toward the center post.
And see that would negate ideas like snow load or whatever, because snow load would all be going the same direction, and wind damage would be going the same direction, but these things were pushed
Right,
into each other.
right. And if you had enough of a windstorm there to actually push those things over, where's all the extraneous damage to the tops of the trees around it?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And in the middle of a forest, you're right. You would see, damage coming all the way up to this structure if it was just the elements,
Right.
not just this collection
Right.
of.
If it was a microburst or something, hey, we're Minnesota boys. We've seen tornado damage plenty of times. You can't
Yeah.
con us with that one.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I think these are just spectacular. Okay. And here's another angle of it. Again, a little closer.
Yeah, this one, you're on the ground now, and if you look closely, I'm underneath it. And so is Lloyd, one of the people that made it for the expedition this year.
Okay.
And that gives you an exact idea of how big it is.
No, I don't see you or Lloyd.
Yeah, we're pretty small. You folks are going to have to actually zoom in on this to see us down at the bottom of it. I'm right in the middle of it. Lloyd's off to the right-hand side with the dark blue hoodie on.
Wow. Maybe we're talking about a different image here. Wait, why does it look like I'm going backwards? This is weird. Thank you, MeWe. Let's try that again. Oh, here's
The
you
forward
guys.
button's on the right.
Yeah, I thought so too, but it ended up going backwards. So here's the two of you, right? Okay. Yeah, you're right, and that's really large.
Yeah, I'm 6 foot tall, so that's a good sized structure. And again, look at the trees around it. If this was caused by a storm or something, where's all the other damage?
Yeah, that's impressive as hell. Wow.
And it's, hey, you got to get out there where they are and actually put boots on the ground and look around to find them. Now, this picture doesn't really do justice to what that forest floor looked like lying around there. You can see there's one log sort of pointing directly at where I'm at, to the base of the teepee and everything. There's some other stuff lying there. Like, this area had lots of fallen timber, suspiciously lots of fallen timber.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to find that around these gigantic structures where the forest floor will be fairly clear. And then you start seeing lots of fallen timber, and you look off in the distance and go, hey, there's a structure over there.
Wow.
And you have to wade through 100 yards of this garbage where you're stepping over, it's like waist high. And, that's only if there's one log. Sometimes there's two or three on top of each other in order to get over to these things and find them. But then if you walk around in these areas, you start finding Bigfoot tracks too.
Oh.
And, I just laugh at anybody that says there's no proof that Bigfoot makes these structures. A, who the heck else is making them? And B, every time we find these large structures, we find tracks, plenty of them.
Right.
This time we found 15 tracks and 2 knuckle prints in less than 3 hours, probably about 2.5 hours of just walking around by these big structures documenting.
That's incredible. Okay, so here's, I assume this must be a track. I'm not sure what I'm looking at.
Yep. Yeah, some of these are going to be hard to see because they're not cookie cutter tracks like the first one I showed you guys. The conditions were different here. And you would think, it's like, well, it's been raining. It's nice and wet. And you're going to have tracks all over the place. Yes. But unfortunately, we're in a lowland boggy area with this weird muskeg-like stuff, plus about, who knows, a foot of pine needles or something like that on top of the soil, too. So if it's mushy, what happens is it leaves an impression. But it's not a cookie cutter because the ground springs back into place after a few hours. So you'll see that there's actually a giant foot-shaped impression in the ground, but you won't see really concise details like, sharp outlines around the side or the heel or individual toes or something. This one, you can kind of make out the toes on a little bit, so it's not too bad. But on the other hand, if it's dry, their weight is so massive, they just crush the ground flat, and it stays like that because it's dry. It hasn't got any spring in it. It doesn't bounce back again. So when the conditions are dry, you find better tracks, but you find less of them. When the conditions are wet, you find lots of tracks, but none of them look spectacular. So there you go. There's the explanation for weird track stuff.
Yeah, and this is a different angle, I assume, of that. Now your foot is next to this one, I think.
Now, this would be Michael's foot, and I think this is a different track. Just about every picture he's got here with a couple, he's got redocumented the same thing from more than one angle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is a different track.
Okay.
And again, you can, advance fairly rapidly through these. There's a bunch of them that are spectacular.
Okay.
The interesting thing here is that we were finding tracks from different sized individuals. So there's definitely a family unit, a troop, whatever you want to call them, clan, herd of Bigfoots that were living around here because we were finding different size ones.
A herd.
Yeah. You get down a little bit further, you can see it's Michael's hand.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pointing out a disturbance in the forest floor that he thinks is probably a knuckle print because, again, it was really close to a track about 14, 15 inches long, obviously from a juvie. They tend to run around on all fours. There wasn't much sign of other animals in there. There was a few tracks from deer and elk, and there were some droppings from them. We found a suspicious trail that started and dead-ended within about 50 feet that looked just like some other Bigfoot trails I found, and had zero elk or deer tracks or poop on it, so I'm pretty sure what that is. And then the next image down again is another one that he found near that first one there, which again, a disturbance that almost looks like knuckles. And when they're knuckling it around, you'll generally see the three big knuckles, not the fourth one.
Okay.
And sometimes the thumb will come down on the ground and sometimes not. You just don't see anything from it.
Wow. Yeah, those are pretty awesome.
Something you don't find a lot of, especially here in Montana, because generally the ground conditions are too hard. They don't really allow for it. And if somebody's out there actually looking for Bigfoot tracks and think, a few people that is, how many of them are actually going to look for knuckle prints too yet? If they see something else, they don't even know what it is.
Right.
They don't look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So next track below that, this is a little bit better one. You can pretty much easily make out the outline on this one.
Yeah.
And anything that we found that was human-shaped, we pretty much documented back in this area because the chance any humans were waiting around back through this fallen timber to get back to where we was really, really slim. And it's no hunting season right now, so no reason for anybody to be up in there. And those first two, I think, are of the same track. The third one is a good-sized one where it just squashed down the grass and it was in a muddy spot, and it stayed squashed down.
Yeah, you can see the toes on the top end all the way back to the heel.
Yeah, that was apparently a big boy there.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow, that's a good print.
The next one he's got after that, this is more typical of the ground condition there, where it's all this moss, really soft moss and stuff, and anything with tremendous amounts of weight will leave an impression in it, but it's going to be fairly indistinct. And he's got his hand sort of across the back end of the heel there, I think, on that one. This is one of the smaller size tracks that we found.
Okay.
And the next one up is on a piece of dry ground, and if you're expert at seeing tracks, you can see this one right away. Otherwise, it might be kind of tough to make out. But he's got his heel lined up with the heel of it, and it's a little bit bigger than his foot is. So this is about like a 14-incher. Again, probably a juvie.
Okay.
Running around out there.
Wow.
And then the next track underneath that was interesting because I didn't see this one. Michael caught it. And this is typical of what the ground was like around there, with everything falling all over the place, And whether it actually stepped on that bottommost log and squashed it into the ground and it had sprung back up and left the impression there, or whether it had stepped underneath it, that's a really cool picture. I like that one.
Yeah, that is cool.
Because that ain't no bear.
Yeah, it is not. Huh.
And then I found actually like two really good ones while I was up there, and one of them didn't get documented because Michael didn't get there soon enough, and Lloyd didn't stay put to tell him to take pictures of it. But I came walking up on this one spot, and there was a 17-inch right foot, pretty clear. It was almost cookie cutter. You could see the toes and everything. And then on the left foot, he had stepped a little bit further forward, and his toes had come down on the edge of a rotted log and gone right through the log and into the ground underneath it in the mud and left toe impressions. So this guy was really heavy because his toes took out the edge of the log like it wasn't even there.
Wow.
But probably the same individual that left this sort of semi-cookie cutter. You can see the outline of it there with my foot next to it. And that was a big boy there, probably about 18.
Wow. That's hardcore.
And then after that, we got a couple of, again, juvie tracks that Michael found. And a lot of this stuff in between the timber, you look down there and you see where they stepped off of it for a second and you leave a track. A lot of this area that we were around in, we weren't expecting to find any tracks because they had so much fallen timber. And they tend to just run along the top of the fallen trees, which is one of the reasons in the areas they're in, they don't have much in the way of bark on them. Somebody keeps knocking the bark off. And part of the reason for that, if you guys ever look at the track line evidence they found a few years back in northern Minnesota in the winter where they encountered this 3-mile long track line of Bigfoot tracks going through the snow. And as they documented it, they started noticing that every time it came to a log, a fallen log or anything, even if there was snow on it, it would still walk down the fallen log. Uh-huh. And it was snapping branches all the time. They habitually snap branches, and they habitually walk on the fallen timber. Reason being, when you're walking on the fallen timber, you're not leaving a track. Nobody's going to find your tracks on the fallen timber. Right. And if one tree falls across another one, you go down that one, that falls across another one, you go down that one. You may go 100 feet before you ever have to step off a tree and leave a track anywhere. So in these areas with a lot of fallen timber like this, what we're doing is we're walking along the fallen timber like they are, and we're looking down in between it to see where one of them stepped off and left a track or two. And that's how we're finding all these.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. Oh, this is a hand pointing.
Yep, he's pointing out, this one's kind of vague, I think he's pointing out the front and the back of where this track is so you can see it a little bit better.
Okay. So this is 2 images, right? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, he's got his finger on the heel on one, and then he's got his finger up by the toes on the other one. No. And this is a typical example. I mean, you can even see there's like fallen stuff right next to it. Yeah. It just happened to step in a spot where there wasn't any timber, so it left a track.
That's interesting. And in this one, you can really, I assume the toes are at the bottom of the image, if I'm seeing it correctly. Is that right? Or am I seeing it reverse?
Yeah. No, I think you're seeing it right. I think the toes on that one are down at the bottom. Yeah, I see which one you're looking at. Yeah.
And that would stand to reason then, because as the toes stepped out, they would push that pine litter back, and clear the toe pads of the debris. So, I mean, even mechanically, it makes sense, which I think is important.
Perfect example of what I'm describing, too, because, again, it's one lone track. He stepped off one piece of timber, going across to another one, left one track, and then stepped back up on it again. Mm-hmm. So unless you know what their little trick is and you're in the right area looking for it, you're never going to find these.
Right. Yeah. Very impressive. Okay. And next up, as soon as MeWe gets it for me.
Oh, this is a fun one.
Oh, wow.
And this is a typical example of what that whole area looked like and why it was so hard to walk through, because there was stuff knocked down everywhere. And yeah, a lot of it's natural. It just fell down. But some of it, no. Because they would have things like this where they'd have stuff through a tree 3 or 4 or 5 high, and then some of it would actually be bent at a right angle, right where it went in between the trees. And that doesn't happen when stuff falls down naturally.
Now, let me run this by you, Duke, because this reminds me of something that I've seen out here. The missus and I go mushroom hunting, and there's an area that we go in that isn't too far off of the beaten path, so to speak, but I found a situation like this where there was trees that were like forked like this, but they were full of these like logs and stuff. And what I was thinking is, were they creating a barrier? Were they creating maybe perhaps they push game down to a certain path where they got a choke point and an ambush point, And are these things set up to push game and to keep them on a specific course?
Yes, I've seen them do that a number of times, so I can almost guarantee that that's a fact right there. And the other thing is that they set this up as barriers to keep people they don't want out too, like humans and bears and,
Sure.
whatever. You just make it too difficult for them to walk through an area, and they'll tend to avoid walking through it.
Sure.
Unless anything other than a human, it's going to react to potential food source. Mm-hmm. So if they're not seeing or smelling a potential food source, and it's a lot tougher to walk through there, they got no reason to walk through there.
Yeah.
The other thing is blinds. They like to make things they can hide behind. So if it's an area they're going to be in very much, like especially one where they build structures, they're going to want a bunch of fallen timber that they can easily duck behind if somebody shows up. And then they can make their way out of your visual range before you can get anywhere near them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just kind of reminds me of like a cattle corral where they're bringing the steers in, or the bulls in to make them steers, and they got the fence ways and stuff on cattle ranches. And when I saw this out there, I was just like, my God, this is like a wall of logs, and it would be continuous for several trees. That there would be this litter all pretty much in a line, and I was like, that has to have been put there. And it has to, it looks like a fence because I believe it is a fence. And perhaps they ambush and take them down.
Yeah, well, some of those, they'll take and they'll build a basic fence structure like that, and then they'll put blinds and other fallen junk around it. Mm-hmm. So they've got a whole choice of a bunch of areas from different angles that they can sit and grab anything that goes by that's, nearby them. But the other one that you're referencing to, we found really good examples of that, and I apologize I didn't send you guys a picture of one of them to look at, because there's a great one up in the Schuylkill. It's like 35, 40 foot long, entire old dead tree with all the bark and the branches ripped off. Mm-hmm. It's crammed in between about 8 living trees, about like 4 feet up. And we got video of that several times. It's been on my show, and it's on my research videos. So if you go look at the Schuylkill videos, you'll see it.
Okay.
But, this is, again, there's no stump there. It was moved in there from somewhere else. There's nothing else around it. No fallen timber, no nothing. Just this one lone, entire dead tree crammed through this stand of other trees. And it's not even straight. It's bent at an angle to go through them. So it's like, okay, that's not natural. What put that there? And, Rich Soul, who was on the latest show and is the tree structure expert, he's got 2 books on the subject out. Mm-hmm. He's documented them all over the country. He's got pictures of them in Colorado and here in Montana and in Nebraska, and Iowa, and all over the place. They do the same weird thing. And apparently, we're not sure, of course, but we think it kind of means the same thing as we mean when we put a fence, which is just stay out, because it doesn't have a practical purpose. Like the one I'm talking about, a deer could walk around each side of it. It wouldn't do anything to slow them down.
Sure.
But to a Bigfoot or a human, that's a fence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And on this image also, is that the Montana Madman right there in the back?
Let's see. Excuse me, I wandered away from the computer for a second.
Oh.
Which picture are we looking at here? The last picture in the sequence is kind of an interesting, fun one that I included.
Okay.
Yeah, that's me standing in between the trees with my arm on one of them.
Yep.
I took a rather nasty spill when we were up there. If you look way off in the background, you can see more fallen timber and stuff.
Oh, sure.
This is sort of on the outer edge of it.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of it, it was really tough to get through, and some of these trees are like 2 feet thick. And we had another area where they had 3 of them had fell. And it was just like this, where there were 2 trees together and they'd fallen in between them. And if you're probably up in the air looking straight down, it would form a giant X on the ground, the lowest most one being in one direction, and then the 2 stacked on top of each other being in the other direction. Well, I was walking from this ridge across this slough on top of them, just like Bigfoot do, get across this slough to the other side, where the top one was again at ground level. And the ground is dropping off below me as I'm going across this thing. All of a sudden, I'm 7 feet in the air, tightrope walking this thing. And I slipped off, I fell, and I landed with my lower back on the bottommost one, which was at about 4 feet, because my feet didn't hit the ground, my back hit it. And both the guys with me saw it, and they're like, Duke, "Are you okay?" And apparently, it looked really brutal.
Yeah.
You can see what these trees are like. There's no branches or bark on them, so there wasn't anything to like go through my gut or anything or
Sure.
back.
Thank God.
But I landed just perfect with my just at the very base of my spine. So my legs draped over one side, my torso and arms over the other. And all of a sudden, I'm like a rag doll over this beam laying there upside down. They can't see my upper torso. All I can see is my legs.
Oh.
And they're like, Duke, are you okay? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm kind of stunned. Am I okay?
Yeah.
Let me try and sit up and see if I can do that.
Yeah.
So I sit up and I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And I just pop up and I start walking along and finding more tracks. And they told me afterwards how bad it looked, and they thought they were going to have to drag me out of the woods
Yeah.
and that I wouldn't be able to even walk or anything. Well, as it turned out, it gave me a really great chiropractic.
Oh,
My
did
back
it?
felt really good for about a day, and then after that, all the bruising started, and it
Oh.
hurt really bad.
Oh.
But I actually have damage in my lower lumbar, which is what I'm on disability for. I got degenerative disc disease.
Oh.
So it's like the one part of my body that I could potentially land on that's already damaged. And I just managed to land just perfect. That I actually didn't hurt it worse. Chiropractic myself instead.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, it was different. The next morning I woke up and I was like, wow, my back doesn't hurt. God, the rest of me feels like I was run over by a steamroller, but my back doesn't hurt. Oh, by the next day, that was all over with. But anyway, that's just an example of what that terrain looks like and why
Sure.
it's so difficult to get through there, and why normally humans aren't going to be finding this stuff, because who the heck is going to walk through 100 yards all this fallen timber to get to it, right?
Right. Exactly.
And then the very last picture we got for you, let me know when you got it up.
I got it up.
Okay, there is a giant critter in the middle of this picture. What is it?
Do you want me to answer?
Do you know what it is?
A moose?
And you are correct. Ding, ding, ding. I had it captioned. Cheater. Anyway,
I mean, you told me in the message anyway. So.
yeah, that's why I said I had it captioned.
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. We see a moose walking along. Michael whips his camera out, goes to get a picture of it, and by the time he gets a picture of it, that's what he gets, because it walked behind a big tangle of timber and fallen trees and bushes. And moose are gigantic and really dumb, and they can't see worth a damn. He might not even seen us.
Right.
And he wasn't trying to hide. He was just wandering away.
Right.
And this is the best picture we could get of him. Bigfoot are super smart, stealthy, and are trying to hide from us. What chance do we have of getting a picture of them?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And this is a great example also of just letting people know why you can't just go into the forest and see a Bigfoot, easily. It's because most forest looks like this. So
yeah, especially where we're going. That's what you're
Right.
seeing most of the time is this.
Yeah, and I've said many times that even 5 feet away from you, sometimes you can't see anything because it's so dense like this that you have no idea what's on the other side of this stuff.
Yeah. And we're sure a lot of the times that we're out there that they're following us around, because we'll catch a whiff of them every so often.
Sure.
Or you'll hear a small movement off in the distance,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, yeah, they're trailing us. Here they are.
Uh-huh.
I smelled the whiff coming from over that way, sort of thing.
Yeah. That's amazing, brother. Those are great.
Well, anyway, bud, I think we're running out of time here, so maybe we better let everybody get it going.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably true. But I just want to really thank you for coming on and being a part of tonight's show. This is an unusual show for us to do on bedtime stories, but it's one that I really appreciate because quite honestly, it's nice when I don't have to do all the talking. And
yeah, you had to be tech guy and do all the hard work on this one. I was the one that could just blab about it. You had to keep pulling those pictures up. That was the hard job on this one.
Yeah, and that's my kind of hard work if I got to do it. So.
Everybody that's listening thinks we're joking, and we're not.
Yeah.
This is like a nightmare that you have to fight with this stuff sometimes.
Yeah. Well, but it's also been incredibly, I think, informative because, it's one thing to see images that somebody might pop up on Facebook or on YouTube, even with video. But when you hear the background of the things that you go through, the techniques, the way that you're looking, what you're looking for, that's all incredibly impressive. And you didn't mention the little rock structure.
Yeah, that was from 2 weeks previous when I was here with a completely different person that's a listener of my show that was up here for one day from L.A., Vinny G. Hey, Vinny. And we went quickly up to Blue Mountain, and then we went over to Patty Canyon because they're both short distance away.
Uh-huh.
And so in one afternoon, we got to both places. And that's where we found the rock stack, was over on Blue Mountain. And then Patty Canyon, when we were over there, we were doing a recreation of my third encounter where I saw one pretending to be a stump. And I had Vinny sitting in position where the stump was. Stump. And then I was standing where I was, and I was recreating, reaching down to my belt and trying to pull my camera off my belt pouch, and I was going to take a picture of him. And I turned back and looked, and the stump was now glaring at me, which I took to mean, A, it's not a stump, and B, I shouldn't take a picture. Yeah. And I kept walking. But anyway, we wanted to recreate that. So he's sitting in that position taking a picture of me, and then like a couple days later, he sent it back to me, and he goes, Duke, I think we had a peeker following us around. Look right behind your elbow, behind those two trees. There's a face looking at you. Mm-hmm. So again, this is one of those, I didn't see it when I was there. I don't know what it is or anything, but it does look a lot like a face. And this was an area where I camped. I had an encampment up there for weeks, a couple months, and they knew where I was. They were following me around and stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if I was up there, if they went, oh, what's he doing up here? And then followed me around.
Sure.
What's he up to?
No, that's really cool. But it's a great story in that you were talking about the fact that you had just gone up a path and 15 minutes later come down and boom, there was a balanced pile of rocks, you know.
Yeah, I don't know if you still got that image handy. You could pull it up and show everybody again. But
let me see
that was a surprise to me because I usually don't bother documenting rock stacks or anything because, like campers leave them and people mark trails with rock stacks so they can find the right turn and stuff again. So it's like me. I don't pay any attention to it. But we went up this way in the direction. I was actually walking up looking directly where this thing would have been because I was looking over the rise as we were coming up to see if there was going to be any animals there that we'd spook. Because that would be the typical kind of place you'd expect to see elk or deer meandering along, taking advantage of the fire lane cut on the side of the mountain, make it easier to walk. But there was nothing there. And then couldn't have been more than 25 minutes later when we were coming back from the top of the power line back down again, there was the thing sitting there. So, I don't know who built it. We had zero evidence there were any other humans around there at the time. We had come across a really icy river to get over there. From the other side of the river, we drove in there. Mm-hmm. And then there was an access on the side of the river we were on, but it was 4.5 miles away and it was gated. So you'd either had to have walked or rode a horse the 4.5 miles up to where we were to be up there. And again, no hunting or anything this time of year. I don't know why anybody would be up there. It's not usually frequented at all. Even during hunting season, it's hardly frequented. And this is at the top of the mountains where there's a power line cut going right across the top of the mountains. Mm-hmm. Where, of course, we would expect that they're using that for, a travel corridor, just like they use the rivers and stuff, because there's no roads to it. Nobody's up there. Right. And there's this giant open lane going across the top of the mountains. So, yeah, that was pretty peculiar. And then, again, it's not only that somebody built it, but the way it was built and that they'd used little rock chips like shims to make sure everything was nice and level. And mm-hmm. It's just the whole thing looked really peculiar, and it was put together so fast. Again, I'm not saying it was a Bigfoot. It could have been a human or something, but hey, for all I know, it could have been the little people. I don't know who built it. Right. All I know is that there was, as far as we knew, no humans around there. We go up the mountain 25 minutes later, we come back down, and there it is. And we just walked past it. No possible way we could have missed it.
Yeah, and it's on screen now, ladies and gentlemen, so you can see that. And it's quite an impressive little structure. That's really something.
Yeah, I mean, that's, usually why I don't pay that much attention to the little rock things, because it's like, how can you prove that a Bigfoot made it? A human could have made it,
Right.
When you've got a structure that's, an X structure that's 60 feet tall, well, it's pretty clearly humans didn't make that. How'd that get there?
Yeah.
A team of Boy Scouts weren't picking up each 3-ton log and moving it into position. Sorry, Adam, it doesn't work that way. No.
Yeah, that's so impressive. But yeah, I just think that stuff is really cool. And again, I'm absolutely honored that you chose to share it here. Thank you so much, brother.
Well, you're very welcome. And I'm just hoping that, you in the future will be able to make it out here yet this summer, and we can get you out there and pictures of you standing underneath some of this cool stuff that we're finding. and you can tell everybody about your experiences being out in the mountains with Duke and
That's
finding all kinds of Bigfoot signs and not getting eaten by a Bigfoot.
I like the last part especially, but yeah, that's definitely on the plan. That's
Yeah,
definitely something.
that's always at the top of my list. Don't get eaten by cryptids.
Yeah, but we definitely want to come out there and do this, and we'll document it as well. Bring some video camera and stuff, my DSLR, and even my night vision binoculars, and we can see what we can find.
Yeah. Now, like I've mentioned on air before here, we've got the ghost town of Coloma only about 30 miles away from here.
Woo.
Not only crawling with Bigfoot, but there's definitely ghost activity there. No question whatsoever on that one. And all the locals are terrified of it because they say the little people live there. So it's a triple plate full of hazardous, dangerous, paranormal fun, if you want to go there.
Just like Mom used to make.
Yep. And you won't get upset if your peas touch your mashed potatoes, right?
No, I'm good with it. It all goes to the same place. That's what my dad always used to say. It all goes to the same place.
Yeah, exactly. It all kind of looks the same afterwards too. But anyway,
Nice.
Yeah, really. Thanks for letting me come on your show and share this with everybody, because this is something normally that you guys would not see any of this until fall. Because I just don't bother to put all this stuff together as it happens. I wait until fall, and then I compile all of it and do like a couple episodes on my show and put all of it out. So you guys got the early sneak peek of the meet and greet this year up in the Skulko, and some of the stuff that we found while we were up there. And I hope it was entertaining and informational, and that you guys had fun.
I know I did, and I'm sure I can speak for everyone else too. I know the chat room has been buzzing, so people are definitely impressed with the pictures for sure. So, oh, Jerry's in there. He says, "Thank you, Duke and Brent." Thank you, Jerry. Good to see
you. Hey, Jerry.
All right.
Poor
brother.
Jerry, he's all laid up. Everybody pray for Jerry. His ankle's busted and it's not healing properly.
Oh no.
And he needs to get that sucker healed up so he can get out in the woods and plant some more Bigfoot signs.
Wow. Well, yeah, definitely, Jerry. Take care of yourself. Make sure not to push yourself. I imagine Jerry's probably been out there squatching even in this shape. So.
Yeah. Well, how'd you figure that out? Yeah. As a matter of fact, he already posted a video where he was road squatching. So you can't. Yeah. It's impossible to keep him from doing it. Same thing happened last year when Blaine Tyler had his operation and couldn't get out. He started road squatching, and he got some really great video of two Bigfoot behind a burger joint, hanging around in the parking lot in the woods behind it. Apparently they like the smell.
Oh, nice. I'm sure they go hit the dumpster later too. Yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, exactly. A real squatcher can't keep them out of the woods. They'd be in a wheelchair. They'd still be out there with tracks on it trying to do something.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you, brother. And thank you so much for being here and taking your time and by all means showcasing these images and premiering them here. I'm absolutely honored, and it was a great journey.
Thanks, brother. Thanks for taking the time to put all of it together and let everybody see it. I appreciate that too, because you just let everybody preview it on your show a few months ahead of time, and everybody that's wondering what's going on out here and if they should show up and go squatching with me,
you should.
Yeah, hopefully this will give you a little bit of a push.
Yeah, definitely, it's an incentive for me as well. I'm not that I need it anymore, but for sure. But ladies and gentlemen,
yeah, I know it was just a timing issue with you, man. I really wish you could have been here, but we'll get you here. We'll get you here.
Yeah, I will. I promise you, we're going to show up this year yet. I'm just trying to iron out the when, but we'll be there, brother. And everybody, thank you so much for being here and being a part of our shows as always. We love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day and remember to laugh as much as you can. We'll be back tomorrow for more bedtime stories. Will join me then, I hope. Or I hope you join me then. But good night, everybody. Sweet dreams.